Welcome back, Commander. Though it may not know it yet, the galaxy is under threat. And to combat this threat, two idiots must Spider-Man our way up a government building. The game is Mass Effect, and this is the N7 Project.
Status report.
Okay, status report. We literally are recording this directly after the previous episode, so nothing has changed.
Yeah. Been playing more Elden Ring.
Okay.
Very, very much enjoying. I don't know what it is about Elden Ring that like just the masochistic tendencies of getting my ass kicked a dozen times until I finally succeed. Like speaks to me on some level.
I was just saying, there's definitely something for a game that doesn't pull its punches. That like you get that sense of accomplishment when you do something difficult. I completely understand that. It's not my tastes exactly, but I understand it from other people's perspective. I've heard the same. I've also heard a lot of people say that Elden Ring really succeeds as an open world game because there's so much cool stuff to see, and it's all of it's not all of it, but so much of it is different and interesting enough that it's worth going and seeing, as compared to something like an Ubisoft open world game where you're going to be doing the same. The map is just full of all of the same stuff, that just seems plopped down there.
Yeah, this is probably one of the few open world games like where the exploration just feels like, it kind of reminds me a little bit back in the day of when I was playing like World of Warcraft, and like I hadn't gone to any new areas, and like every time you enter a new zone, like it just feels completely different, and there's just so much to see and explore.
Yeah,
like, and for that reason, like it feels really engaging. Like I can just sit down, and at the end of like an hour session of playing or whatever, I feel like I won't really have accomplished anything, but I've seen and done a lot.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's interesting. Your comparison to World of Warcraft, because that was something I really enjoyed about World of Warcraft, was just when you go to a new area and you get to see a bunch of new cool stuff. And I'm glad that at least somebody's still doing cool stuff like that, and especially that it's not an MMO that you have to pay $15 a month for.
Yes,
that's awesome. Well, I have a recommendation for you for some media.
Okay, it's
called Centaur World.
Huh.
So you know me, I'm a guy who loves to give people spoilers. I like hearing spoilers ahead of time. And I will tell you the spoilers of the entire thing of Centaur World, except the very first episode. I think you should go in blind.
Okay.
I don't think you should look at even the screenshots of what the show looks like. I think you should just watch the first episode, because it's.
Is it an anime?
It is. It's animated. It's off Netflix, I believe.
Okay.
And it's on. You have access to it through systems that I've given you access to.
Yes.
It's
on Scotflix.
Yeah, it's on Scotflix. I think it's not too much to say it has one of the best fake outs of any first episode I've seen, which is really interesting.
Interesting.
And
now you've got me curious.
Yeah, it's really cool. And that being said, my favorite thing about it is possibly the villain of the whole series is possibly one of my favorite characters in cinema now, or cinema, like on televisions now. Like I really like the main villain a lot. He's really cool. Has both a really cool design and an excellent backstory and like emotional gut punch. But yeah, and I guess to talk, I want to preserve that fake out for you, just to see how you react to it. But also the production is really weird. They do not shy away from doing weird stuff. And I guess if that doesn't appeal, if you don't want to be kind of occasionally go, why is that? Then maybe it's not the series for you. But it is, if you want to see some stuff that you won't see elsewhere, yeah, it's good. Highly recommend.
Okay.
All right.
Centaur World.
Gotcha. All right. Let's get into our mission debrief.
Mission debrief.
First, the most important question. How much do you think Shepard's parking fine is going to be for where they left the Mako?
I feel like they may waive it for extenuating circumstances. I can't imagine CSEX taking parking violations as their primary issue at the moment.
All right. Well, we pick up where we left off, hurtling through space in essentially an armored RV. We arrive in a crash on the Citadel's Presidium, and the place is not doing well. Saren and his allies have already attacked and are making their way to the heart of the Citadel to activate it and bring the Reapers down on everyone's heads. So we need to get from the Presidium to the Council Chambers. Time for one last elevator. Oh, shit. Oh, wait, it stopped. Oh, snap. Yes. Instead of just riding up, we get to head out onto the surface of the tower, mag boot ourselves to the side, and blow up a Geth ship with AA guns and do a bunch of other cool stuff, killing Krogans and Geth the whole way, and finally make it up to the chamber. Here you confront Saren, who makes an offer to let Shepard join him in the Reapers, but Shep's not having it. If your social stats are high enough and you came close to convincing him back on Ilos, you can convince him that the Reapers are using him and that he can fight them in one last way. General content warning for the rest of this episode, we're going to be talking a bit about suicide for this next phase, in case you've never played this before and somehow don't know what's coming. If your social skills are if Shepard is convincing enough, Saren decides that they're right and puts his own pistol to his head in one final act of defiance against the Reapers. If your social skills aren't quite up to snuff, you'll have to fight him and put him down yourself. Afterwards, with Saren's body in a heap on the ground below, Shepard loads a file from Vigil onto the terminal and deactivates the Citadel once and for all. You make a contact with Joker, who's one jump away from the Citadel with the whole human fleet, ready to come whoop Sovereign's ass. By the way, Sovereign and the Geth have been kicking the shit out of the Citadel fleet this whole time. Probably should have mentioned that. You get one last decision: bring the fleet in now at risk of human lives to save the Destiny Ascension and the Council aboard, or hold off to keep the humans in reserve to make a final strike against Sovereign when the time is right. Don't sweat this one too much, by the way. Anyway, as the battle rages on outside, Shep sends their companions down to make sure Saren is dead. But wait, Sovereign activates the cybernetic enhancements inside Saren's body and takes direct control, leading to another stage of the boss fight. As you kill Saren's Sovereign form below, Joker rides in with the human fleet and fights Sovereign's ship form above, leading to a double tag team victory over the Reapers and the Geth. There's like an explosion and stuff, and for a second we think that Shepard might be dead, but that's all just a fake out. And afterward, Shepard, Anderson, Udina, and possibly the Council meet to celebrate the victory and decide the future of humanity and the Council in the coming days. So, overall impressions of the sort of final bit of Mass Effect 1.
Loved the last dungeon. I do wish there had been like a little more of Shepard like helping with people who are being like attacked by Geth or something, just like civilians on the Citadel.
Oh, okay.
It does kind of feel like you just arrive there and like you don't pay any attention at all to like anyone under attack.
Sure. Okay.
You bump into some husks and
yeah,
I don't know what husks are doing on the side of the tower, but you know, whatever.
Yeah. I have to say this is possibly my favorite part of Mass Effect 1. Now, yeah, I agree with your I wish that they had done, a little bit more, like it had a little more time on the Citadel itself to maybe help some people out or talk to a person other than Avina. I'm with you on that one, but the moment when you get out of the elevator and start fighting your way up the side of the tower, and you can see Sovereign in the skybox above, and he's like firing lasers and like moving his tentacles around, and you're fighting over some terrain, and you're like picking up AA guns and stuff, and like that's my favorite dungeon. Like that is such a good ending to the game.
At this point, like Shepard is as powerful as they're going to be in Mass Effect 1.
Yeah.
So you got all your best gear, like all your best equipment, your guys are all kitted out, and you are just kicking ass as you're just blasting Krogan and Geth just off the side, like one after another. It's just such a good gauntlet to run through.
And honestly, and this is one of the areas where the level design works for me. I don't get lost. It's pretty straightforward. I love the fact that you can, I really dig the fact that you can see Sovereign up above you the whole time. And
yeah, it definitely like has that kind of, like waypoint or marker feel like I'm heading to this. This is where I need to get to.
Yeah. I love the inclusion of the little the Geth drop ship fight at one point. There's a reasonably good variety of enemies as well, where you're dealing with both drones and Geth and Krogan. It totally is, that section right there is one of my favorite parts of the game. I also, man, the point where you get into the council chambers and you confront Saren, who brings out his stupid goblin flyer again, but you can just have a social conversation with him. And if you are good enough at your being Paragon Renegade, you also have to have passed a check on Vermeer when you last convinced him. You can talk to him and he will just pull his gun out and blow his own brains out because you've convinced him that he's being used. And the first time that happened in my Mass Effect 1 playthrough, I think I might have been, I didn't do it in mine. I think I was watching you finish Mass Effect 1 when you managed to pull it off. And that is one of the best moments in gaming to me, where it's like, oh shit.
That just felt like like it felt like everything I had done up to this point mattered.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh shit, I just convinced the end boss to kill himself.
Yeah. It's that was one of those moments that I'm sure somebody else had told me this had been done previously, but I had not encountered that kind of the kind of thing where you're like, we're just going to drop an entire stage of the boss fight, and when you're playing, it's like, we're just going to skip this because you were good enough with your social skills and the things that you'd done up to this point mattered, that you can just bypass it. And that's great. And it also, I think, really humanizes Saren, like gives him that moment of clarity to realize that he's way too far gone and he's been overcome with the indoctrination and he still has one last bit of will to fight back. And it actually makes me like him a lot more that you managed to turn him around right at the very end. He's not capable of a full redemption. You're not going to get a Zuko arc out of him, but it is worth, pulling him, he gets that one last he doesn't give that final inch, which I think is great.
And I think it also sets it up that like, it really like hits you over the head of the fact that Saren, like, despite the fact that you've been chasing Saren this whole game, he's not the ultimate villain.
Right.
It's the Reapers.
Yeah. And specifically in this game, it's Sovereign, which I really dig. I like the Saren Sovereign part of that fight too, quite a bit. I think that Saren's final form, when Sovereign takes over him and he's been like reactivated, looks really cool, and the fight feels pretty good to me. I like that version of it.
As a sniper, this is sniper on console. I hate this fight.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I could see how that.
It's mostly just.
That's just.
Like, I'm not the best at like hunting moving targets or rapidly moving targets on console.
I get you. I can totally see how maybe for other classes that wouldn't work out, but for me at least, I tend to play Mass Effect 1 as a soldier most of the time, and as a soldier, that fight is not a problem. I do like the fact that that being said, the Sovereign version of Saren moves like one of those Geth creepers. I forget what they're called.
Yeah.
And those guys I hate so much for the same reasons that you do. And I actually kind of like the fact that they choose the shittiest, the most annoying version of him, the most annoying version of the Geth to mimic, because I don't know, it feels right. You're not supposed to like Sovereign. He's supposed to be an asshole. He's supposed to be kind of exploitative. I'm down with that.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than the Flyer, right?
Yeah. That thing's dumb. And then the cinematic effect of all of those ships for the outside battle is really good too. I feel like they did a good job of making that feel like a real high stakes thing that's going on outside. Lots of ships get blown up. Lots of people die. It feels like a proper end game moment. I'm down for that.
Yeah. So what was your decision with the council?
That has to be in Shadow Broker files, unfortunately. I mean, I'll tell you what it is, which is that I kept the council, but my reasoning for keeping the council is a Shadow Broker files moment, unfortunately.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
My
role play thing would have been to kill them. That like if I was choosing stuff based entirely off role play, I would have killed them.
Yeah, we actually let the council die this time around.
Oh, really? Okay.
Normally I'm the one who's advocating like saving the council just because it feels like the right thing to do. But this time around, we decided nope.
I don't blame you. They're yeah. We'll have to just talk about that later because I have nothing. I cannot talk about that without getting into stuff that is down the road.
Yeah.
Oh, who did you choose for the council? Because you get to add Udina or
Anderson.
Yeah, and I think they released a thing of like who chose what, and I think the number of people who chose Udina as the ambassador is fucking minuscule.
Like single digits easily.
Yeah, it's nobody. Nobody chooses Udina because he's an asshole.
I wish they had done more to like make him like he's a really savvy politician or something or whatever, and like he would be a good fit for the council. But like
no,
he's
just an antagonist.
He just feels like a whiny dick.
Yeah. You could have written, it would have required work and a little bit more deftness, but like you could have written that character such that some people might have chosen him, but no. No. Yeah, nobody chose him.
And it's funny because I feel like Captain Anderson's probably not the best choice. Like, no. He's a good person, but like he's not a politician.
No, No, but who else were our other options, right?
Yeah. When the other option is Udina, it's just like,
no.
I mean, what are you gonna do? Like stick Caden or Ashley on that?
That also felt like one of those decisions that it felt like they were establishing stuff. Like they really were kind of telegraphing at this point that some of these decisions were going to carry over from one game to the next, assuming there was another game.
Mm-hmm.
That felt like one of those ones. They're like, well, who do you want to talk to more in the next game? And it's like, oh, well, I'd rather talk to Anderson, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be dealing with the council, I'm assuming, and of course we're going to choose the guy that we like and also who has a fucking much better voice actor than the other one. I mean, like Keith David versus whoever the fuck Udina is voiced by is not even
it's not even fair.
Not even fair. Yeah. Man, they should have put Keith David as Male Shep. I mean, I really like him as Anderson. It's a really good character choice for him, but that might make Male Shep worth doing. But maybe it's possible that people wouldn't have felt like that choice would have disappeared into the role. Maybe you would have felt like I'm playing Goliath, Yeah. Maybe.
I don't know. Personally, I didn't feel like Mark Meer did a bad job. I feel like his only fault is that he's not
Jennifer Hale.
Like, and that's not his fault. He hadn't done voice acting before, but
yeah, he was fairly early. And actually his Mass Effect 3 version of Male Shep is a lot better. He just puts the hours in and got better. But yeah, but it's just one of those things. Like, man, you got to bring in a heavy hitter. I mean, imagine if it had been Steve Bloom.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, like, then that the like, they would have been a lot more even, and possibly even in Steve Bloom's favor because Steve Bloom's fucking legend.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay. Well, we'll.
But I mean, I can't imagine Steve Bloom as anyone other than Grunt now.
Well, yeah. Grunt's really good. But that being said, I think Steve Bloom is good enough. He could have been Grunt and someone else, honestly.
Sure, yeah.
But anyway, no, I don't like ragging on Mark Meer that much because I know he seems like a decent enough guy, and he's not bad. Like I have to admit, like I've done some voice acting work on various projects, and if you put me up against Jennifer Hale, I wouldn't pick me either. Yeah. All right. Okay. What else do we need to talk about before we get into?
So, I mean, that basically, that kind of wraps up Mass Effect 1. And you basically kind of, with the impression that Shepard's basically going to go off and mop up Geth and, safeguard the galaxy against the Reapers.
I wanted to ask your opinion about the fake out of the almost dead thing.
Oh, I was playing with Jess at the time, and like, I don't remember if like at the time that I played Mass Effect 1 that we knew there was going to be a Mass Effect 2.
We didn't. It hadn't been announced.
So like that was actually a legitimate fake out to me. My first time I played around, I was like, wait, no, they're not going to kill off Shepard.
Yeah,
and we're going to have to create a new character for the next one, which I mean they could have done.
They absolutely could have done. Now it feels really weird in retrospect. Having the full series, that fake out feels really weird. I remember at the time being legitimately worried. And I even remember thinking, I think I looked up online to see if there was any way that you could fuck it up badly enough that Shepard actually does die.
Yeah.
But it turns out that no, you can't. It's just set up as a fake out. And now in retrospect, it feels a lot like the kind of move that you put into the game so that you can get that hero movement where the music swells and Shepard comes over the rubble and you feel all heroic and stuff. At the time, before we knew about 2, it did feel a little bit more like it could possibly have happened. But
I think it would have felt really cheap if they had decided to have that be a moment where you could die off, because just having defeated Saren and Sovereign and then suddenly you get killed by a piece of rubble, that would have felt really bad.
The thing about storytelling is that if you're going to do something like that, you have to telegraph it. You have to foreshadow that the character is going to die. And they didn't do that. They didn't do that in 1. They did not feel like stepping up to the final confrontation that will lead to your own death. That is not.
And I think maybe I got a little faked out at the first time I played around, just because like we'd had that moment where like, you choose between Ashley and Caden. And so like the fact that there was character mortality on the table, like definitely upped the stakes a bit.
I think they had established enough to make you question for a second that it might have happened.
Mhm.
I do not think they
Yeah.
had done enough work to have then killed Shepard. You know?
No,
Yeah,
I agree.
like-
Absolutely.
I think that the first time that you play, if you don't know about 2 and 3, then it is reasonable to assume that it's possible Shepard might die. And you have that moment of,
Yes.
are they going to do it? And then they don't do it. But if they had done it, everybody would have been mad. I think
Exactly.
if they had actually made it where you did die at the end of Mass Effect 1 without doing any other additional work earlier in the game, then everybody would have
No,
been
I agree,
so
absolutely.
incredibly mad. Okay. Is there anything else we want to cover before we get into some more shadow brokery stuff? We liked the combat in this section. There's not really any lore dumps or anything like this. This is all just action straight up. We had the boss battles, which some people don't like. That's all right. There's also at this point, we're not going to we're spoiler alert. I guess, I don't know. We're done with our Mass Effect 1 coverage at this point. We aren't going to,
Yes.
if there are any additional side quests and stuff that we haven't covered yet, they're not getting covered. We will probably talk a little bit about some of the things that, in retrospect, if something comes up in something we haven't covered so far in Mass Effect 2 or 3, we might revisit things. But we're pretty much done. You can go from this point though. You can go back out into the world map and do more stuff in Mass Effect 1. You can go finish off all your little quests and such.
After the
I think so.
Sovereign Citadel,
I think you can
I
load
guess
your
I'd
save
never
game
done
up. I could.
I just always assumed you went straight to New Game Plus, but
I guess I could find out real quick, but I'm not loading up Mass Effect 1. I think you can, because
sure.
I feel like I did the asteroid DLC on my main game at one point. With after.
Oh.
But anyway. Okay. Well, let's get into some Shadow Broker stuff.
Shadow Broker files.
The big one for me is that Citadel, the Citadel Council decision.
Yeah.
Fucking sucks in retrospect.
I really wish it had had more of an impact than it did.
This is the first time when I got legitimately mad about it. I haven't cared up until the moment, but the moment I was playing this version of Shepard, and I was forcing myself to be a renegade the whole way through, which I don't like doing, but I got to that moment, and I know too much about Mass Effect 3, which is that if you get to Mass Effect 3, nothing else matters, just about. Like this decision, if you kill the council, they're going to replace by people who, for all intents and purposes, are exactly the same. There's a slight difference in 2 that I think they don't immediately reinstate you as a Spectre, but it doesn't have quite as much of an impact on the overall gameplay. It's not like you get locked out of the Citadel. But in Mass Effect 3, the Destiny Ascension is worth more than the human fleet in your war assets.
Yeah.
Which means there is a correct answer. Like, if you want to have as many war assets as possible, you have to choose to save the Destiny Ascension. And for all of my role-playing purposes, I should have picked killing the council. I should have done it.
Yeah.
And I didn't, because I want to make sure that I have a full set of assets so that I can talk about, so that I can have tons of war assets, and I can talk about the endings of Mass Effect 3 when we get to it. And that pisses me off.
So I actually don't know, like, it was never really an issue for me in the original release of Mass Effect 3, because I played a lot of the multiplayer.
Which we can't do now.
Which we can't do now. And that was a great way to pad out your war assets to the point where, like, if you played it enough, like, you could just stream, like, just straight run the plot.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah. And so that it's different. It's a game that's different now. And because and this is one of those things where a new player who's never played before makes different decisions. Jess made a different decision than I did because I have forward knowledge of what's going to happen.
Yes.
And that affects my gameplay now, and it makes it harder to play the game as just a game. And that kind of makes me mad.
God, that said, this is one of those games where I absolutely wish I could just forget everything I knew about the game and play this series again for the first time.
I would love to. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, there was some other stuff. Okay, the other thing is the fake out death, because we're going to start Mass Effect 2 with an actual death of Shepard, and
yes,
I was trying to think about it. If there was any, like, if they had known that they were going to do that in 2, would they have just not brought Shepard back at the end of 1? would they have just actually let Shepard die? And in that case, if that was the case, you're gonna have Shepard actually die. It can't be just some falling rubble, right? Like it has to be a real thing. And if that's the case, maybe it was something like the blowing the Saren Sovereign monster out a window and flying with it at the same time, or something like a really big dramatic moment that really sold that death. It just seems so interesting to me that you have that fake out death that then immediately you follow up with almost like literally if you quit the game now and load up Mass Effect 2, the first thing that happens is that your character dies, which when you do it in such close succession to one another really feels like somebody going, oh crap, maybe we should have actually killed Shepard before. It feels like they're trying to make up for a missed opportunity. And I don't know how I feel about that.
Because I think that they would have had the exact same emotional impact. Like if you basically, if you died during the final confrontation, like probably even more so than just having them be taken out by some unknown ship at the start of Mass Effect 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do.
I think that makes Cerberus's role in it make more sense too, because Shepard's dead. Like literally at the beginning of Mass Effect 2, there's a cutscene where Shepard or Elusive Man and Miranda are talking, and Elusive Man's like, we need to make sure we get Shepard for this. Make sure we preserve Shepard. And then Shepard dies. Like they're talking about it ahead of time. And then it makes that scene makes more sense if Shepard has died at the end of Mass Effect 1 and they're saying, well, now that everybody's saying the Reapers weren't real, they're like, people are screwing around with this. We need Shepard back. Let's start the thing to get Shepard back.
Yeah, that'd be a lot more interesting, I think. Could even do like an even bigger time jump, I think, like that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's 2 years, which is, I think, a pretty reasonable time jump, but you could go farther, yeah. It's just a weird, it's one of those things where if they had not done the fake out in 1, and then they needed to kill Shepard at the beginning of 2, okay, that makes sense. Or if they had not done if they'd done the fake out and then not immediately killed Shepard at the end of 2 or at the beginning of 2, but putting them so close together in gameplay time really makes those seem like they should have been one event.
Yeah, I think
you would have had to change some stuff, but
I feel like ultimately I'm happier that they didn't kill Shepard off at the end of Mass Effect 1.
Certainly for the time, the real time between those 2 games coming out would have felt so different.
And I think that probably would have actually like maybe possibly impacted my decision to go like to get Mass Effect 2. Like if like my character that I'd spent all this time and like made all these choices with was dead and I didn't realize that Mass Effect 2 was going to sort of retcon that.
Yeah.
Then that probably would have, impacted my decision to play a little bit.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's, happening at the start of it, like, I mean, I think that was actually part of their promotional materials. Like when they were talking about Mass Effect 2, like it was known that Shepard was going to die.
Yeah. I think I don't remember it being surprising to me either. It's one of those things. It's, the different decisions that you make when you're writing one game at a time versus if you had been writing the whole series all at once and releasing them all at once and consuming them. When we're doing like we are now, where I finished Mass Effect 1 on Thursday night and I loaded Mass Effect Mass Effect 2 up today and watched the first little part of it. It makes it, the context is so different in those. Whereas it really had been, I mean, like there had been 2 years or more, 3 years, something like that. When was Mass Effect 2 out? It was 3 years from the end of Mass Effect 1, from Mass Effect 1's release to Mass Effect 2's release. So to have that 2 years different time difference in the terms of how often you're consuming it really does change the perspective on how the stories work.
Because I remember finishing Mass Effect 1 and being super excited for Mass Effect 2 when I heard news about it. I was all on board for the next chapter of Shepard's story.
Yeah, me too. Okay, well, let's get into is there anything else you want to specifically want to talk about in this last section here in terms of Shadowbroker Files before we do our major overall Mass Effect 1 sort of impressions and the council. No, not council. The Oduna versus Captain Anderson decision.
Yeah.
Another one where makes me mad every time it happens because spoiler, but the thing is that whatever you choose, Anderson won't be the ambassador by the time Mass Effect 2 rolls around. I do think they actually managed to record this part of the decision, because I remember a voice line where Anderson says that he had been the ambassador and had turned it over to Udina for some reason in 2. That being said, if you kill the council, there's an option to say, we should have an all-human council. And that decision was not recorded to the save file. Yeah, they just didn't write it to the save file, so there was no option for that to actually happen, which would have really changed too.
That would have been really interesting.
It would have been cool. I feel like the all-human council would have been very Cerberus friendly, if not working hand in hand with Cerberus the whole time, which would have made 2 very, very different overall. I'm kind of glad they didn't allow that option. I mean, in terms of like Cerberus, I don't really want Cerberus to be in charge. But
God, I feel like if you had done like an all-human council, like they absolutely would have had the Elusive Man as one of the counselors.
Ooh, that would have been such a good reveal if you had actually made all the Elusive Man, just done Bond villain style where you don't see his face or really hear his voice or something like that, or you have Martin Sheen do slightly different register or something like that. And then at some point along the line, it's revealed that one of the counselors is the Elusive Man. Would be cool. Yeah. Or maybe it's like a hologram voice changer thing or something. I don't know. But like you could have made that work.
Sure, yeah.
That'd be a cool reveal. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, that at least by the time of Mass Effect 3, we get to fucking kill him.
Yeah.
He's such a shit. I feel like
he sucks a bit.
You could absolutely have made that character more make me feel more conflicted about that character if you had done some proper development on him and made us see what he's good for, you know, to show him actually being a real diplomat, or even if he's like a slimy, get things done back real room kind of deal. If you could have like gone to him and ask him for stuff and have him pull it, like do a backroom deal with the Shadow Broker or something, or like,
yeah, like if you could like show him like doing like slimy politician things, but for the benefit of humanity, or like, and like doing it better than Anderson could do, like in those particular cases, like you feel gross doing it, but like, damn, he gets results kind of thing.
That would have been really cool. Yeah. Yeah. I just don't, that's one of those things where I wish they just hadn't asked us, like if you weren't going to do it, if you weren't going to make Anderson the ambassador. And this is one of the things where, of course, they were writing one, they weren't sure they were going to get a second game out of that point. They felt this was a cheap thing to ask, right? But like, if they just said, well, we don't know who it's going to be, we'll figure it out, that would have been fine. I wouldn't have felt bad about that at all. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let us do our character bracket, and then we're going to talk about the game as a whole after that. So, character bracket.
Yeah.
Character bracket.
All right. So, this is a hard one. Arya T'Loak
versus
Mordin Solus. So, to refresh anybody whose maybe those names aren't pinging for you, Arya T'Loak is the head of Afterlife? Omega. Is that what it's called? Forget the name of the station.
Yeah.
Oh, Omega.
So she hangs out at Afterlife.
Yeah. Afterlife is the place. So, Arya T'Loak is the head of Omega Station, which is an sort of an outlaw, lawless space station full of all kinds of ne'er-do-wells and slums and stuff. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
She's voiced by Carrie Ann Moss of Matrix fame. She's a cool freaking Asari, and at one point she is a companion for exactly one DLC. Mordin Solus is
in a potential sort of mini romance.
Oh, really? Okay. I know that you can kind of flirt with her, but I don't remember it going anywhere.
If you play as like full renegade ship.
Okay. Mordin Solus is the Salarian scientist who's a companion in Mass Effect 2. He is he's quite a character. He has a very distinctive way of speaking, which is to like leave the subjects out of sentences all the time. And there's some moral stuff going on there because he was part of the team that re-engineered the genophage to keep it in place. But then in Mass Effect 3 makes a 180 and decides to fight against the genophage and ends up helping you remove it and sacrificing himself in the process. He's fun. He's got a lot of humor with him. He's non-romanceable. This is one of those. This is a hard one. I love both of these
For me-
characters so much.
They're both great characters, but for me, just for his arc in Mass Effect 2 to Mass Effect 3, I have to go with Mordin Solus. Like, I feel like he has probably some of the most pivotal and memorable scenes in the series.
You're not wrong, but let's give Arya her full shake.
Sure.
Carrie-Anne Moss fucking kills that role. I love her voice so much. And
she's probably one of the coolest looking Asari that they've made.
Her outfit is so good. And she's got that self-assured, I'm a badass, I know what I'm doing, fuck everybody else attitude.
She's like one of the only characters who isn't intimidated at all by Shepard.
Yeah, which is cool. It's such a refreshing a character who treats you as at best an equal, if not a total subordinate, but that you still love her. Like, her attitude is so good. And both her writing and Moss's performance just has such charisma that, like, at least for me, like, despite the fact that she's treating me like shit, it's just like, yeah, step on my neck, mommy. Like, please, like, we just, like, she's got such good energy and charisma, and I love her so much. That being said, I've only played her DLC once. For whatever reason, in Mass Effect 3, I either didn't get it or I'd stopped playing it by the time it came out or something like that. It's not the best DLC in the world, especially compared to some of the other ones. I kind of forget that it's there, and that the plot is kind of all over the place. But you do get to see her, and you get to spend a lot more time with Arya during that time, which is really good. And I enjoy that time spent with her. I just don't have quite as much of a memory of it. She's cool. She's also present in 3. You know, you can do jobs for her that will allow her to present her her armies as part of the war assets, which is cool. She looks great. And I love the inclusion. Every time they put in an evil Asari, it makes me happy, because I love when every time they bring a species in that is ostensibly on the side of good or evil, and they let those members defy the sort of species expectations, you know, is really good.
It makes them feel more, I guess, human, or
it just makes the world feel more fully realized. You know, there's contradictions within it, which is great. Yeah. Mordin, this is, to me, I know you've already expressed your desire. It's so much closer for me. I love Mordin so much, but I really like Arya too. This is just like, there's no wrong decision here to me. Like, it's not that Mordin is necessarily worse than Arya. It's just that they're really top tier to me as characters as a whole. Not as companions, because you don't really get Arya as a companion for very long. And I kind of almost prefer her as not a companion, because she feels like a protagonist of her own story. Like, you were running into her stuff, and not like, she's not like getting swept up in Shepard's wake, you know? Yeah. But I mean, the seashells,
the seashells, that's such a gut punch.
But is it okay, so I guess it comes down to, because there's a lot of really good gut punches in 3. Like, would have liked to scan the seashells versus does this unit have a soul? Like,
we're not talking about. We're not talking about Legion here.
We aren't, but like, what Mordin does. Because the thing is, if I say no, it's got to be Arya, then we're down to a coin flip. Versus if I say it's Mordin, we're on to Mordin. I love him so much, though. Do Not Ingest is really good too, and I am the very model of a scientist Solarian. He's so good.
Like, to me, Mordin just has more memorable moments than Arya. Like, I love Arya. This is not a knock against Arya at all.
I just regret her going out in the first round. It's like, why couldn't she have been up against fucking Shaira or like one of these other, like, I'm going to pull a bracket up and be like, I'm just going to mourn Arya a little bit, I guess, is my thing, because she's,
why couldn't she have been up against Shepard's fish?
Yeah. She's do like her a lot. Like people that we have already passed on that she's cooler than.
Most of them, honestly.
I mean, like she would have beaten Morinth. She would have beaten the Thorian. She would have beaten Shallan. Yeah, she probably would have beaten Shallan. She definitely would have beaten Sovereign. She definitely would have beaten Caden. She would have beaten Char. Like probably Steve Cortez too. Like she'd have gone to like round 2 or 3 if she wasn't up against Morinth. That's just a really bad. It's a really bad round 1.
Morton's just he's one of the, in my opinion, he'll probably be one of the ones that goes a long ways.
Let's see. He's definitely going to go. I mean, spoiler alert, because I can already tell what we're going to do. He's definitely going to get past round 3 when he goes up against whoever comes out of Thorian versus Samara. He'll probably make it all the way out to hit Liara based on this. Oh no, no, because the next round is actually.
Ooh, yeah. Well, I mean,
shit. Okay. Yeah,
that's a character bracket for the future.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm gonna have to cut all of that and put like a big bleep noise because I like that's spoiler alert for the podcast, not spoiler alert for the game anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. It's gonna be Morden. It is Morden. It was always going to be Morden, but I did want. I mean, we have to. Like I said, I wanted to mourn.
I mean, you made a great case for Arya.
Yeah.
She is a great character, and this her losing to Morden is no knock on her.
Yeah. We've had those rounds where there were no right answers, and this was just one where there was no wrong answer. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm putting it down. All right. Arya, goodbye. Morden, you're going to keep up. All right. Well, before we close it, this would normally be where we end the episode, but we're going to, because this is the end of a game, we're going to zoom out a little bit and we're going to talk about Mass Effect 1 as a whole. And we'll probably end up talking about some of the things that we had talked about before and rehashing things, but I just wanted to give us sort of this overall impressions. And you know, if you can relate to me what Jess's impression was, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, I think she's definitely been kind of. It's been an interesting experience because like she's heard me talk about the game a lot, and so I think for her this is another game. For me, like it's very interesting, kind of getting to share this and show her like the different, you know, and I feel like this is kind of like. It's a little bit one of those games where like, okay, I promise it gets better later things. Like once Mass Effect 2 rolls around, like the stories, the plots, the characters all feel a lot more engaging, in my opinion.
That's true. I mean, it is an improvement. That being said, revisiting it now with a much more critical eye, the last 5 times I've played Mass Effect 1, I was just blowing through it, right? Like I was doing everything, but I was skipping dialogues and I wasn't paying attention. I have to say, this is better than I remember it being overall.
Yeah.
The Mass Effect 1 really gets a bad rap because it was the first one. And it's definitely not as good as 2 or 3. I mean, like it's not as good of a game, but that being said, it's still a Mass Effect game. And it's like the combat is rough. The Mako is rough. A lot of the quest design, like the UI design of where you find your quests and go looking for them, all that stuff, all that's really rough. But I had more fun with this than I remember. I was kind of prepared to really be a slog. That being said, we did speed up our coverage towards the end there as we got a little bit tired of it.
Yeah.
And I think that might be its one big fault. I'm willing to forgive a lot more, but I think it overstays its welcome a little bit.
There is one thing that we never covered really.
Yeah.
And it was one of the things that super endeared me to the game back in the beginning. And that's the Codex system.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There is so much world building lore in there and they have such a cool universe, but you have to be willing to sit down and basically just read a book.
Read a wiki basically. It's a wiki.
Yeah. But that was kind of what like took the universe and turned it from being like just kind of a generic sci-fi game to like being my Star Wars.
Yes.
Like
I'm absolutely in agreement with you. I'm not going to necessarily call out the Codex system itself, because the Codex system is the worst way to present a really cool world. You have to, like I said, you were saying, you have to be willing to sit down and just read about it. And
Mhm.
that is a terrible way to show your audience this world that you've built. It's just the cheapest way to do it. That being said,
Mhm.
the thing that sells the Mass Effect for me is the world. Like I love their approach to sci-fi, it's not hard sci-fi, but it wears the veneer of hard sci-fi, and it uses some of the language and
Yes.
trappings. And I adore the visual language of Mass Effect. Some exceptions. I mean, there's some things that I think they really whiff the ball on, but I like the way a lot of the environments look. I like the way that the technology looks. I like the ship designs. I like, the alien races are alien enough to feel like proper aliens, with
Agreed,
few
yeah.
exceptions, but also close enough to humans that you can still believe them as characters. We don't have a problem like
Mhm.
not
You can still like develop a sense of empathy towards them.
yeah, and I think that's a really good balance. It's obviously not realistic, but again, this is soft sci-fi wearing the veneer of hard sci-fi.
Mhm.
And there are the things that really detract from Mass Effect 1 are, I think, the way you interact with the world, specifically that big overworld and some of the level design. And I think its combat definitely isn't as good as it could have been. If you had let, I don't know, if you had let id Software or somebody come in, or one of those or somebody who's really good with shooters, if you'd let somebody come in and revamp the game, the moment to moment gameplay, that would have helped. But that's not the selling point. The selling point is the world, and also especially the characters. There's a reason why we gave a bypass to 4 of the 6 companions that you have in Mass Effect 1. Like, those are the characters that we, in our character bracket, are going straight to the quarterfinals or whatever, because we love them. Like, we really, really love Liara. We like Rex, and we like Tali, and we like Garrus. All these characters who are universally remembered fondly are established in this one game, and they're good characters, and they come back, and we love them. I love Shepard too. Like, Shepard is one of my favorite protagonists in games, and they ride that line between everybody has their Shepard that is, their version of what Shepard is, but there is enough of an overlap amongst everybody's Shepard that somewhere in there is the sort of Shepard, the heart of what Shepard is, that everybody sort of agrees on, and is a likable character, the one that we can, as much as we all like to talk about, everybody's got a different Shepard, Paragon versus Renegade. Shepard is still a terrible dancer, for example, which is a great little character moment, that there's something that they're just bad at, and like, I 100% love that implementation of that character.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I feel like this is also like one of the first games I can think of that sort of like had you develop this main character that like you just felt this kind of personal attachment to.
Yeah, I felt.
The Baldur's Gate games, kind of, but I feel like you weren't as involved in the decision making and making that character something going forward. I feel like regardless of the choices you made in previous games, like none of it really carried forward as much.
I think the failure of a character like the protagonist of the Baldur's Gate games is that because they gave you so many options for what your character could be, that the results of those choices sometimes feel flat, because you have so many different options of how you could be, that you can't have characters react really strongly to the protagonist. Whereas because Shepard has a heart, you can at least have characters react to that heart, and it will be consistent from Shepard to Shepard, which really helps. I'm trying to remember now back to that 3-year period between Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2, and trying to think about how I felt about the series at the time. Because it's really hard to remember how you felt about something without having your later feelings affected, because I'm trying to tease out a little bit of how much of my affection for the series comes from Mass Effect 2, and to a certain extent 3, but 2 especially, and how much of it straight came from 1. I remember being in love with that world design from the moment.
Me too. I know I played through the game like 5 or 6 times before Mass Effect 2 came out.
Yeah.
I had basically played every single character class through on legendary mode or whatever it was.
Yeah. And I hadn't done that many playthroughs, but I had 100% of the game all the way through, and played the DLC that's not even in the Legendary Edition, the Pinnacle Station, which you can get on a modder saved it, by the way. You can get it on the mods now. And I'm
kind of glad that didn't come through, because I don't remember that being a particularly
it's fine.
Engaging.
It's a combat based system, and because the combat in one is not the strongest, it doesn't really come through, and it's not bad. It's not actively bad, but I wouldn't recommend you go pull it up.
It was fine playing it on PC with mouse and keyboard. I hated it on.
You wouldn't want to do it on
controller.
And but yeah, I had not only 100% of the game, played it a couple times, but 100% at every single thing you could do in it. I also remember specifically unlocking and reading every single codec entry, which I think says something about how good the world is and how much more I wanted to be inside of it and live there, spend more time with the story. So I think that's a pretty reasonable, that says something about how good it was at the time that we had both spent a lot of time in it. Despite some of its moment to moment problems. Yeah.
I mean, I still feel like probably the weakest thing about the game was the inventory system.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which and here's the thing, because we're well into the point where we're talking about spoilery stuff. The things that we're really spending a lot of time feeling are the weakest points of 1 are things that the development team absolutely understood and took direct action to fix when they immediately went into 2. Yes. They're like, okay, we need to revamp the combat system, to the point where they took away some of the things that I think are actually interesting parts of the world building, like, for example, the heat system for its weapons. But because they were like, well, this was an experiment, it was a bold choice, it didn't work. Let's have the presence of mind ourselves to understand that it didn't work and completely go away from that decision, despite the fact that it doesn't make sense in the inside of the universe for everybody to suddenly start using ammo again. Yeah, we're going to call it heat sinks, but it's ammo again.
I actually kind of like that that they did do that. Like, they kind of like dressed it up as like, oh yeah, like we kind of realized it was a bad idea if like you're literally in danger of slagging your weapon every time you fire too much.
But I mean, like they were willing to take something that had been in a unique part of their gameplay and instead swap it out for something that was more traditional, because it was more fun. Like, like that was a decision that to me was, this wasn't fun. We thought it was a cool idea, but it wasn't fun. Let's swap it out. And because of that, I think that's a sign that they were trying to fix all of these problems from the games before. And some of those changes won't work out. I think that the scanning is an improvement over the running around in the Mako on a random planet.
Oh, absolutely. Still tedious, but nowhere near as bad.
Nowhere near as bad. And has just like a lessened amount of gameplay to it. I think their mini game aspects, which they didn't completely get rid of, but they are better. I think the mini games from 2 are more enjoyable than the ones from 3, from 1. They're like, well, we're going to get rid of the Mako section until we can do it right. Now, quote unquote, right, until they can put the effort into properly designing a system for it, which is the Firewalker DLC, where you get the hammerhead. And that's a cool thing. And it was, that they said, okay, what were the best parts of the Mako? Oh, it's the sections where we designed it specifically for Mako. Okay, rather than just making random crap. So they made a DLC that was just that, and that was otherwise optional.
And to be fair, like, I have no strong opinions about the Firewalker stuff one way or another. But, like, it was something I did. Yeah, but like,
at least you didn't hate it the way you hated the Mako, or or you didn't feel yourself, or at least I didn't feel super frustrated by that section, which I think is, I mean, maybe it's not perfect, but it's a huge step up, right?
Yeah,
and like, and for example, they to me it feels like they radically fixed the problem of reuse of assets from 1 to 2 as well, where
absolutely
places feel really unique now. And as we're going to get into Mass Effect 2. And so like a lot of these complaints that we've been harping on for 15 episodes now of, they're doing this again, and elevator rides and, the Mako sections and all these things are things that like they took that criticism to heart and improved things on, which is why Mass Effect 2 is so good. We'll have to get into, it'll be late in the series. We got another probably 30 episodes before we're going to talk about it, but like which one, how the arc of the series goes. But I was, like I said, I was really pleasantly surprised that it was as good as it was, that like I was expecting more of a slog. But I was surprised to fall in love with Mass Effect 1 specifically kind of again,
I will say that like the side content is probably the roughest the series will ever be.
Yeah.
Is just doing the side planets and whatnot.
And even those, there are some real gems. I mean, like there are some plots that are fun. The gameplay itself isn't necessarily great, but like they were still trying to mix things up, and got to give them respect for that. It made, making choices that are interesting, even if they're not safe, and didn't all work out.
Absolutely.
And I guess they were taking the opportunity of because here's also the thing is the one thing that doesn't transfer from 1 to 2 is this is the biggest the universe will ever feel as well. Like
that's true.
That the galaxy of Mass Effect felt big and wide and open in 1. There was a lot of empty space in it. There was a lot of time spent kind of moving around through the universe, not doing anything in particular, just kind of roaming around and looking for things. As much as I value the improvements of gameplay that we're going to get in the future, that feeling that they were going, I think it was a deliberate decision to make this empty space feels good. Like it feels interesting. It feels like part of Mass Effect to me, that there is a universe out there that's mostly empty stuff, but there is interesting things to see. And we're never going to get that again.
Yeah, I think each of the 3 games had a different sort of core philosophy or feel.
Okay.
The first one was all about exploration, discovery of the unknown kind of.
Yeah.
The second one is more of like a heist movie almost.
Yeah. Let's assemble the team and then go do a thing.
Yeah, and then the third one is sort of like that kind of epic climactic space opera.
Yeah. And all of that was to say that like I did value that openness and exploration, and despite the fact that it being rough and a lot of the decisions that they made to remove it were good decisions, they did lose something in that is necessary. Probably not worth it to have kept a bunch of bad crap in there just so that you could make like the universe feels open, but it is there that and maybe that's a good thing that this started off that way, because if you play Mass Effect 1 and then 2 and 3. Some of that, the universe is a big empty place, can carry over because of your memories of 1.
I think you'll actually be happy with the direction that Andromeda has gone.
Maybe.
Because I feel like they went a little bit more open world with the planets you explore in that game. But it feels much more designed.
Okay, cool. I'm hoping to give Andromeda a really fair shake. It's been out long enough. Yeah. They did as many patches in it as possible. One thing I'll mention now is that I'm going to be we're more willing to install mods going forward on this playthrough. And if there are mods under Andromeda for fix things, that's great. There are full on, probably ones you should get for Mass Effect 1 and 3 that are just giant bug fix mods that like they just go in and fix things that BioWare never had a chance to because people want the game to be as good as it will. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck it, let's do it. Like let's try to fix
why not?
Let's make the game as good as it possibly can be. And the fact that people are willing to do that is a huge testament to how good the series is overall, that people are willing to put that kind of time and investment into it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Well, my voice is getting hoarse and we've been talking for 2 hours and I'm sweating to hell in my office. But we have finally completed Mass Effect 1. We're going to start getting into our Mass Effect 2 playthrough in the near future. I'm going to try maybe to get another guest or two in between here and then, but
sure, yeah.
Thank you all guys for sticking through us so far through 15 or 16 episodes, depending on how you count things. And we will look forward to seeing you guys in Mass Effect 2 when I have to rewrite all of my intro stuff.
All right. Until next time.
All right. Thank you for listening to the N7 Project. If you would like to read the upcoming playthrough roadmap, there is a link in the show notes below. We can be found on Twitter as @N7Project, at our website, masseffectpodcast.com, or via our Discord, scottpaladin.com/Discord. If you'd like to support the podcast, Honestly, the easiest way to be to write us a review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or your podcatcher of choice. We read every one of those, and it gives us a real boost every time, and it helps people find the podcast. Or if you want to give monetary support, all funds to our Patreon, patreon.com/monsterpod, will also go to supporting this podcast. Mass Effect, its associated characters, sounds, plot points, whatever, are copyright by some giant faceless corporation. The N7 project was produced and edited by me, Scott Paladin, and hosted by myself and my best friend, Zach Jaquays. Audio is copywritten 2022, Scott Paladin. This has been a Library of Cursed Knowledge production.